Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Coming Out Stories from India series. Coming out is a term primarily used in the LGBT community when a queer person shares about their sexual orientation, usually with friends and family. Nicola and I decided to launch these Coming Out Stories from India to ensure we all work together in changing this narrative. We aim to give the next generation positive stories, positive role models, and information that can help them make the right choices. These are personal stories, and our guests bear their souls. So make sure that we're all respectful of that. Yeah? I'm Raga Olga de Silva, or Totally Out Now, as you know me. Our guest today is known to many for his appearance on Amir Khan's Satyameva Jayate when they publicly shared a detailed account of sexual abuse as a child. I've also heard and seen Harish Iyer on various platforms talking about LGBT and being a huge, huge support to the community. He's a prominent voice in the community, as we all know. So please join me in welcoming one of my favorite men in this world, Harish Iyer.
Hi Raga,
Hi, Harish. I'm
pleasure to
very
see you.
partial to these things that you have called
Yeah,
dimples.
I have pickup lines. I mean, somebody actually told me, your dimples are like potholes. Can I swim in them?
I want to know what was your response.
Ah, I said there are other places to swim as well.
So many. I'm not going to say the word. But Harish, lovely to have you. I'm looking forward to having a fantastic conversation with you. I've always loved your energy. We haven't known each other for long, but for some reason, every time I WhatsApp you or I hear about you, I see a comment from you, I just want to tell you I love you. And I just feel this for you, this affection for you. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, thank you. That's my takia kalam too. So I would respond to people with an "I love you," everybody, and then they would get a little puzzled. I try hard to not use it at my workplace, but I know I'm getting there as well. So I'm developing friendships with people. So I will start my "I love you" wala thing at work as well.
Wonderful. Let's keep the love growing. Just because we're from the LGBT community, and I don't know whether you face this. I face this a lot. I've seriously just been out 1.5 years, publicly out 1.5 years. But people assume that just because I come from the L word, LGBTL, lesbian, that I know everything about the community. But I want to say publicly, I actually don't know much. I'm learning. Every day is a new day for me. So I'm going to talk to Harish about being gay as well as a gay man because I really don't understand your world, and I would love to understand. And I know our audience here would also love to understand and know more. And Harish, I'm going to start with this. I just want you to set a scene for us and say, how was it growing up? Where did you grow up, first of all?
Thanks, Raga. I grew up in Bombay. I grew up in the Madras of Bombay, which is Matunga. So where you find a lot of South Indians. So I come from a South Indian family. And though I call myself a Maharashtrian because I've lived in Maharashtra all my life, so I have no relation to South India except for the fact that I can understand Tamil. And I hail from a joint family, so we were like there were three brothers, my father and his two brothers who used to live together, and we had a grandmother, my father's mother and father. They were there, so it was a very close knit family. I was the first child of the family, and as patriarchy goes, the first male child of the family as well. So I was the apple of the eye. So um, I was loved by everyone. It's not that the daughters were not loved in my family, but it was always told to me that I'm the first male child of the family. Um, so they didn't get on to me, but yes, there was some patriarchal bullshit that I was exposed to at pretty young age. Um, the and then when I grew up at around 7 or 8, my 6.5 or 7, my life completely changed. I got sexually abused by a male relative of mine who was not living with us, somebody who used to live close by, and I got abused to a point that if I was a woman, I would have been pregnant. So There was trigger warning for people who are listening.
Mm.
There was, there was anal sex. There was oral sex. I was gang raped when I was around 12 years of age. So where people took turns in sexually abusing me. So what really happened was my idea of sexuality was um, very diffused. I didn't understand what desire was. I learned how to masturbate for the first time when I was around 19 years of age. I didn't know what self love meant. I didn't know what desire meant. For me, everything was very conflated. I didn't, when I started realizing that I feel for men, and there was a lot of these subconscious feelings that you have, in the sense you get nocturnal emissions. Your your testicles fill up, and then you get a sperm, an outbreak of sperm that happens, and you get these dirty dreams, and it was always men in my dreams. So that was not engineered. That was not something that I consciously thought of. Subconsciously, I used to think of men, but consciously, I used to live in these two worlds, a world that I was sexually abused and the world that I was not sexually abused. And these two were like parallel lines. So it was almost magical. Like 10 minutes before, I would have got raped by somebody. And and if you'd ask me what happened 10 minutes before, I wouldn't remember. So
Wow.
I suffered that for quite some time. Even now, I have a very poor memory because I have struggled to just trying to find out what happened with me 10 minutes before, 5 minutes before. I used to wear my clothes back, and I didn't remember what happened before.
And
You know,
you were actually 7 years old when this happened.
yes,
Right. And so 7 to 12, you're saying, and 12, I'm very sorry when I'm talking about
I
it.
opened up when I was yeah.
Yeah.
I opened up when I was 18. So it was 11-year sexual assault that I endured.
So while you were going through that, did your family know what you were going through? Did your school know? These are two places, home and school is what we are, at that point associated with.
You know, because when I got sexually abused, we were in mid 80s, or rather proceeding towards late 80s. Um, and by the time I was in school and other places, we were in early 90s. The idea that boys could get sexually abused didn't exist. There were no examples. I never heard of a boy being protected at all. And because I lived in these two worlds, my family didn't have the slightest of hint that I could be sexually abused by a man, because they didn't know that men could get abused.
But did you
Boys could
know
get
that you were
abused.
being abused? Did you understand
I
that at all?
I didn't either. I didn't either. So my uncle used to take me for a haircut, and after that we used to go home. So when I used to sit with him in the bike while going for the haircut, I used to be uh, perfectly blasé about everything. I didn't, as if I didn't care about the world, and I was enjoying my bike ride. But the moment he and I were alone in the room, I would remove all my clothes and and lie down with my back facing him. So that I my mind was just engineered that way. And to the longest time, when it was 18, when I started speaking about it, and when I spoke about it, I was I didn't remember the whole scenes. I didn't remember my gang rape. I didn't remember every scene. It was almost like parts of a jigsaw puzzle, and some parts had come together. So even today, I cannot be 100% sure that I remember everything.
Wow.
I would speak to a survivor, and I would suddenly remember that, hey, I think this happened with me too. You know, so so it's a whole journey. I think you don't recover from child sexual abuse. You just keep recovering from child sexual abuse. So
Gosh.
you keep remembering these parts of the jigsaw puzzle, and they slowly and steadily start making sense when they reveal a whole figure.
I'm very sorry once again to hear this, and then thank you for sharing it. And this, yes, audience, trigger warning, please be aware. And this the whole discovery process that you went through, because obviously for 11 years you didn't even know that you were suffering what you said, or that was abuse. So how did you deal with it when you actually the realization hit you?
It was very difficult. I mean, People think that the most traumatic parts of my life was my sexual abuse. It wasn't, because I wasn't even aware that that was happening, right? So like they say, uh, you know, there's something that you know that you know, there's something that you know that you don't know, there's something that you don't know that you don't that you know, and there's so much that you don't know that you don't know. So this was the fourth zone. I didn't even know that I didn't know something like this, you know. So that was and while this was happening, I didn't suffer much, though physically I was bruised. There used to be times when I used to bleed from my anus. So physically I was bruised, but I didn't know where those bruises came from. So I wasn't psychologically traumatized as much. um, but when I started, I was traumatized by other things, by students in my class teaching me, calling me feminine and calling me a girl. The word gay didn't exist that time. I mean,
Right.
so people just called me girlish and stuff like that. So I was very emotional. So I used to start crying at the drop of the hat. So people used to think that I was a sissy. So all these words were used, and I was upset because of those things. But I didn't know that I didn't know about my abuse. So how do you protect yourself? But when I started knowing about it, when I was 18, when I said no to my uncle, and that also happened because of my dog, because I used to speak to my dog, and every time I put my head between his paws and I cried, I narrated a story and he licked my tears. And that gave me courage. You know, so my entire life got redefined when I started speaking to my dog. I started revealing my story to my dog. And in revealing my story to my dog, I realized that my story was getting complete as well. So these fragments of jigsaw puzzles that were there, they were they were forming something, you know. So I think that I think so that's where my belief in telling stories, because I think if there's something that can change the world, it's only the power of stories. So
100% agree with you. There is a little bit of static, but I'm sure it will disappear as we speak. Harish, this whole word pedophile, there is a word, and sadly, people mistake pedophile. And sometimes I have heard in a room full of people talking ill about gay men and confusing the two. So, can you explain to me? Did you understand what pedophile was? Pedophilia was at that age, when 18, when you understood that somebody had abused you, or when did you learn that?
I didn't know these big words, you know. I didn't know. I didn't have the power of language. Um, I don't know if my uncle is a pedophile or whether he is a child abuser. I mean, they're two different things now. Now I can gather. Pedophilia is more, you can be a non-offending pedophile also, where you are attracted to young children, but you can take medication and counseling and just not act on your desires,
Okay.
right? So because it's a harming desire, so you might get attracted to young people, and there's nothing that stops us. It's not a crime to get attracted per se. It's a crime to act on your attraction and to exploit children. So so I don't know if my uncle was a pedophile or was he a sex abuser. Was he driven by instinct or was he driven by power? I don't know that. But I did know that what happened with me was without my consent and it was wrong. I didn't know these terms. I didn't know. It's only after I started speaking about these things did I realize that there is this whole world of terms and terminologies that I could think of. Um, when I was around 17, 18, I started realizing that I could be attracted to men, but I hated myself for it, because exactly conversation, the question that you asked me was something that was running in my mind too. It's like I was abused by men. How can I think of making love to men? Right. So I used to spend hours together in the restroom. By the time I was 18, I realized how I could self pleasure, and I used to spend hours in the restroom, uh, looking at a picture of a woman in a woman and her bare breasts, trying to masturbate to her. But in the end, when I finally came, I always thought of a man when I came, and because everyone else, I mean, the heroes around that time, were um Anil Kapoor, and there was Amir Khan, and there was Salman Khan. It feels awkward to say that today and to admit that today, but I have masturbated to Amir Khan quite a number of times. So now that I've had a show with him, it's a little weird to admit something like that. But yeah,
We
so
all have such
we all
days.
do these things, we all have these teen fantasies. So he was because he was the only chocolate boy around, and of course there was Kumar Gaurav, who was the other person, but he didn't get so popular. But Amir was there, so yeah, so I mean, it was a
So
dream come true. I mean,
sure.
with where come has a dual meaning over here, where when I met Amir Khan in person.
No, so how do you react when people box gay men? And I'm going to use
That's
them as pedophiles. I've heard this so many times. They just don't get it. Or
the truth.
when they, yeah, please
Yeah,
go ahead and
please,
respond to that.
please come. Yeah.
No, so I was like that, and or when they assume that you become gay because you've had a sexual experience with men as a kid.
These two are very important. Thanks for asking that question. Very important for us to distinguish. Now, let me throw back the question on you. Okay, did if you lived a heterosexual life for so long, I'm sure that in all women, so to say, they have been touched, they have been pinched. Most of the women have been touched, they have been pinched, they have been molested by some idiot in their life, and most often that has been a man. I mean, I don't think women are than holier than thou or holier than cow in the Indian context, but but I know that there. So did we ever blame women? Did we ever tell women that you would have been a lesbian, but you turned straight because that man came and touched you, right? So I went through the dichotomy as well, where I couldn't understand whether I was abused or whether I turned when I'm turning gay. Imagine if this question can come in other people's minds. It would have come in my mind so many times. So I blamed my sexuality on my sexual abuse for a long period of time till I was around 20 or something. I still thought that I was gay because I was sexually abused by a man. But there was this time when I was around 22, 23, when I went to Singapore and I had sex with a commercial sex worker, a woman. It was a one night stand, and Raga, it didn't stand at all. So, so that's when I realized that I have to come up and stand up for what I stand up for. You know, so
Love the way you use
so
words.
so so I came back and I came out to my mother and I told her that I realized that I used to hate men because of my sex abuse. Okay, and I love men because that was my orientation too. Okay,
Yeah.
so I understand that there's a difference between behavior and orientation. So if you are in say a prison surrounded by all men or in a hostel, you could develop a behavior of wanting to feel that bodily touch of another person, and that person could be a man, right? And it could be a same-sex person. But your orientation would kick in at some point. So my orientation was gay, and after that I spoke to so many survivors. I must have spoken to around 7 or 8 lakh survivors till date because I've been speaking from the age of 18 and I'm 42 right now. So I've spoken to so many survivors. Most of them are men who have been abused by men and who are heterosexual and not homosexual. So that correlation doesn't hold true. But if somebody comes and tells me that they turned gay because they were sexually abused and they're okay, they don't have a conflict right now, I wouldn't go and tell them that, oh, no, no, you have to feel bad. You were abused and that's why you have to feel bad. I don't go and correct them. It's their life, it's their journey. I don't hold I don't hold authority to actually correct them when it comes to these things. So that's where I stand. When it comes to pedophilia, I yes, some gay men can be pedophiles, but not all gay men are pedophiles. And this is not the or not all men kind of diatribe. But but just as some women could be pedophiles, but not all women are pedophiles. So it's a subset. You we are just as I'm not saying that we are normal. LGBT people are normal as heterosexual people. I'm saying that LGBT people are as abnormal as heterosexual people, are as abnormal as cisgender people. So there could be a gay designer, a gay banker, a gay pedophile, a gay murderer, and you could find all those things within the LGBT community as well. Just as there could be a straight designer, a straight murderer, a straight philanthropist. So you could have all kinds of people. So they do exist, but it's not true that's the only truth of ours. We are as deviant as everyone else.
Ex-
Okay, so
ex-
the deviance exists
Very
within
well.
us.
Wonderfully answered. I can say, because I have twins, a son and a daughter, and I often get these questions, these weird questions. What's going to happen to them? Because they've been brought up by two women, they think naturally they're gay. They think their sexual orientation, like, how do you even explain this? That sexual orientation is a personal choice. It's something inside you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I lived a
See,
heterosexual
I
life.
wouldn't even say, I wouldn't even use the word choice
Right.
because
Yeah.
there is a chance of it getting misinterpreted. Though I understand where you're coming from.
Sure.
I remember our friend Barkha had once used the word choice in one of the this thing, and she got trolled for that. But the truth, she didn't come from the space of conflict, or she didn't come from that space. What she meant was, it is our choice to be out about it. Okay, it's our choice to be totally out now, right?
Yeah,
So that is our choice, but it's not our choice to be gay or lesbian. It's not that we decide on Monday, Saturday, Friday को संतोषी माँ का दिन है तो मैं heterosexual बन जाऊंगा, or so we don't do that. So it's not a choice, but yes, it's our choice to be out, to be totally out now.
no, I love that, and I think I understand, and I hope the audience understood where I was coming from as well. For me,
Yeah.
I lived a heterosexual life. I was married, right, for many years, and then I made that choice to live
Yes.
my truth. So that is where I came from. That for me, it was something that lived in me. I knew it all my life. I never
True.
accepted myself. So the day I decided that this is who I am, I made the choice to leave the heterosexual world or life that was what we say
Exactly.
is functional, dysfunctional, normal, abnormal, and moved into this life. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that is the
So that
that is
so that's a choice. To
yeah,
to
yeah,
to take that chance is a choice. But to
correct,
be a lesbian was not your choice. So it was not
correct.
my choice. It's just as it's
Exactly.
no one's choice to be heterosexual.
Exactly. But coming back to that question, Harish, how do you deal with it when people put that you into a box saying all gay men are pedophiles? How do you deal with it? I more than knowing the theory around it, but how do you deal? It's a personal attack in a manner, right, to all men.
It gets difficult. Okay, um, I wouldn't give you a picture perfect answer for this. It is difficult. It is difficult even today, with so many years of speaking about my story. I still struggle sometimes when people ask me questions like these, which comes from a comes. It doesn't come from a space of curiosity. It comes from a space of allegation. I don't mind curiosity. Curiosity, it's good to be curious, okay, and I'm willing to answer when there are the curious questions. There are people who have asked me questions of what do I have a penis or a vagina, and I'm very upfront in answering. In fact, I love when people ask me such questions. I mean, I don't get offended, but it comes from a point of allegation because they're looking for an axe to grind, and they specifically would come to you so that they can pick on you, and you can tell the difference. So it gets difficult, but it's a life to lead. My entire life is defined by what has happened to my life. So I would not want my life to be defined by my sexual assault, and not just from people from the outside community. Raga, I have faced a lot of challenges from within the community. I've had people from the LGBT community, fellow queer people, who would come and say, "Oh, if he was quiet, he would have enjoyed it." So most of them are my friends today. Okay, the fact that speaking out became a point of therapy for me because I had to speak out because I would have died if I had confined everything within me. So I had to speak out. I had to speak about my abuse because that's when the parts of my jigsaw puzzle were getting together. So, so I did it because it was therapeutic. But every time I spoke, and because I happened to be the first amongst the first male survivors who was speaking so openly, it's not about being first or anything of that kind. There were survivors before me. There would be survivors after me. But there was no face. When I was looking out for a face and a name of a person who was sexually assaulted, I didn't find any. And then when I actually came out as gay, which was around 24, 23, 24, that time hell broke loose because I wouldn't get accepted in the LGBT community because they would say that because of me, everyone is assuming that everyone gets raped and they turn gay, you know. And then so I had to tell my story even more, in much more detail. It was not I had no chance of shying away from my story. I had to explain that I'm gay because I'm gay because I'm gay, not because I didn't have any other way, not because I was sexually assaulted. It is so my life became my story, and I became the god of my story. So that's where my life began, and so it was not an easy journey, and I had to face prejudice. I face it even today. I have people from the community who don't like me, who would keep saying things like, "Why does he come up in every second frame?" You know, I don't come up. I actually try and ensure that there are more voices available. But if they are asking for a story, and if my story helps another person, I will speak about it.
Of
I,
course.
I might be on my deathbed and I will speak about it still. Because it saves. I have listened to around 8 lakh survivors till now. And all of them had a story to tell. All of them had, and probably I was the only confidant to them in the beginning when they actually spoke about the stories.
Sure.
So, what my dog was for me, I'm for other people. Yeah, tell me. Sorry.
Fantastic. Licking. Look, I will come back to the conversation about the community more in depth. I do want to touch upon that as well. But before that, I just want to know at 19, you said you finally came out to your mother. And when you came out to your mother, did you also express what had happened to you as a child? So was that both connected? Did she understand? Or did they get into denial as families do about both your sexuality and what had happened to you?
So I first told my mother when I was around 11 or something. I mean, I didn't have the words. I said that my uncle touches me here and there. And then after a few years, again, I told my mother that I was bleeding from my anus. So my mother didn't react to either because she didn't know. Then I voiced it out in so many words when I was around 18, 19. So that was the time when I voiced it out and I said that I was sexually abused by him. This is what he did to me. Okay, that time I didn't speak about my sexuality, right? So I spoke about my sexuality much later when I was around 24, 25, 23, 24. I don't remember the exact age, but yeah, around that phase. So my mother, there was denial. There was no denial in the truest meaning of the word. My mother, uh, I had to sit. My mother first told me, "Oh, he must have just touched you." I said, "No, listen to me. This is what he did to me." And then she understood the gravity of the situation. And what resulted after that is is me trying to find out if there was a law against it. I realized that there was no law against child sexual abuse at that time. The law came into existence in 2012 after after I went in Satyamev Jayate and I spoke about it. There were a lot of activists who have worked hard. I mean, not that the law got made because of me. A lot of activists on ground who worked really hard for it. But my narrative was one of the narratives that was there. And then, of course, recently, Supriya Sule took my name in the parliament, in the floor of the parliament recently. So I've had a journey with law as well, a tryst with law as well. But it wasn't an easy journey at all. My mother didn't understand when we went. We discovered that there's no law against child sexual abuse, and then there was the whole family dynamic that we had to bother about. My uncle was happily married; he was a part of the family. So how do we deal with that? It of course landed up in a divorce because my story was there, but I couldn't be put on the witness stand for any of these things because By that time, we had Section 377, which was there, and Section 377 in its draconian form didn't have any provision for consent. So even if it was non-consensual, but he proved that it was sex, I would have been behind bars too. So
Gosh.
we didn't have any legal recourse at that time.
So where is that at this point? Have you all made peace? He's moved on, you've moved on. Has been any action taken?
There was no action taken because, as I said, that there was no law against child sexual abuse. What I could do is social action. What I could do is take social action. Raga, I'm not overwhelmed with anger. I cannot become this angry person because of what my abuser did to me. What I can on what his friends did to me when I was gang raped. I can't. I can't become a product of hate. I wanted to be a product of love. I wanted to be a seedling of love. I didn't want to be overwhelmed with hate. Hate only destroys the hater. It doesn't destroy the one you hate. Yeah, it doesn't destroy the hated. You know. So it took me time. I was very angry at myself. I was very angry about my body. I I thought that I could go and have. I used to. I had a lot of risky sex. I used to go in restrooms and I would random people, truck drivers and other people. Nothing wrong with being a truck driver, but people whom I didn't relate to would come and give me a blowjob and try to have sex with me. I wanted to destroy my body around that time because I was feeling pleasure with men and I didn't want to feel pleasure with men. So I ended up feeling more pleasure, tried to feel more pleasure with men by going through a route of um, this thing. And luckily, I didn't catch any STD. The only STD I caught was scraps. You know, I had pubic lice, and that's the only thing. But I did live a risky life at that time. And then until I came to terms with my sexuality, and I have the sex worker to thank with whom I tried having sex, um, and who didn't make me feel embarrassed about the fact that I couldn't get an erection. And by the way, I did get an erection. I closed my eyes and I thought about John Abraham. So, so it was a leaning tower of pizza, but it was it was growing though.
you
It
know,
was
I,
getting.
Harish, what I'm loving about interacting with you is that you kind of share your story as a storyteller. It's almost like it's happening to you, but it is not happening to you. So, because I'm finding it hard to detach from you, but you have detached yourself, and I'm attaching so much of, I'm feeling that emotion. I want to tell you, Harish, I really love you, and what I see is I'm not a psychologist, but I see self-sabotaging phase that we all go through. We punish ourselves, right, for something that we haven't done, and I've done that to myself a lot as well. And I disclose that in my next book. But I'm just going to come back, take you back to your family. Now, you said that you were the first child in the family and male member of the family. The pressure on you would have been immense to carry on the patriarchy, the legacy. So, how did your mother deal with when you came out, and how did you deal with this?
My my mother was pretty cool. My mother was very progressive, so to say. She was, but she was scared. She was scared when I actually told her that, Mom, I think I'm gay. Her first reaction was, "Is this because of your abuse? Okay, do we need to go and see your psychologist?" And that time, psychology was a bad word.
Yeah.
So people weren't like going to a psychologist. But my mother believed in the and that's the whole thing. My mother believed in sex education. My mother believed in psychology. My brother is dyslexic, and we went to my brother suffers from dyslexia. I shouldn't say dyslexic. So we had gone to psychologists all through our childhood. My sister, my cousin sister, who lived in the same house, is hearing impaired. Uh, so uh, so we were in a house which had diversity within the house itself. So we understood what psychology meant. We understood what therapy meant. So, But the thing is, I had to ask those questions before my mother gave it to me. That was where she faltered. And when I told her that I was gay, she was the first day I told her I think I'm gay. Okay, and she said, "I'm going to throw you out of the house. You have to fend for yourself. Do you know what you're talking about? Is this because of your abuse? Then we need to go to a counselor." I was upset, very upset the first day. And then but by that time I was sure that I was gay. Okay, because of the one night stand where it didn't stand. Okay, so I was sure that I was gay. So told my, so I took a days off, and because my mother was, I love my mother immensely, and she was the only woman in my life who was so close, and of course my aunts as well. But the woman who listened to me without lecturing me. So my mother did this whole thing of, uh, the Kiran Kher moment, as we call it in Dostana, where she was angry at me exactly for one day. But I had fixed up an appointment with the counselor, not for myself, for my mother, so that the counselor can treat my mother and tell her what exactly was going on with me. But I remember I had walked right away from a place like Sion in Bombay, some 30-40 kilometers to BT, and sat in the seashore, in the sea face, and then came back home. Okay, our went is all fair and lovely, and I came dark and dusky because I was all tanned. And then I told my mother that, Mom, Amma, I love you. If you don't if you want me to marry a woman, I will. But suggest that to me only if you had a daughter and you would get your daughter married off to a gay
And
man. And then things are history. She just hugged me and she said, I knew that you were gay. I said, how did you know I'm gay? I said, those websites that you used to see, Yahoo chat, I used to see from behind. I said, Mom, privacy, privacy. I said, you were watching all this? Yes, you were on those webcams and you were chatting with these people. I knew, but I thought that somewhere that this was untrue because you've already had a battle to fight of LGBT rights, of child sexual abuse. This would be another battle to fight because. And then she said, "Keep it as a secret. Don't tell this to anybody." But the next day, I was so overwhelmed with emotion. The next day, I was in midday. I remember I had a lot of pseudonyms. So I was not confident to come out as Harish. So my first email ID, I used to call myself Yash. Uh, so my first email ID was yash underscore nature at rediffmail.com. And then I started calling myself Aham because I wanted to say that there is a me inside me. So mere andar bhi ek aham hai, you know. So it's a Sanskrit word for me. So, so I got a little creative and then I called myself Aham. And then it took me time from Yash to Aham to finally become Harish. It took me a lot of time to become Harish Iyer. It took me a lot of time. And now, of course, I make a conscious attempt to not use my surname because it's an indicator of caste. Wherever I can, where I can't, I let it be. But where I can, I try and don't use my surname. So yeah, so so yeah, so it's been a whole roller coaster ride from a
so,
point where I used to hide myself to finally being this out and about guy.
and look at you, the voice of the community in a manner, isn't it? But tell me, through this roller coaster that you were going through, did you have any close friends, support network that spoke with?
Uh, I did. In fact, I there was a group called Gay Bombay, which was a Yahoo group. We used to have these Yahoo groups at that time, which you could subscribe, and you meet fellow. So there will be threads of conversations that used to happen over there, and then you butt in whenever there is something that fits in. and everyone would be able to read it. So I did face a lot of uh, in the beginning it was I mean queer people can be hostile as well. So they were I remember the times when everyone over there in their online identities were out. They were not physically, I didn't know if they were, but I realized that I couldn't be so out as them. So I used to, when you're scared and you're typing something, you can just make out,
Hmm.
and I got bullied by a few people within the community itself. So I thought that, oh, this queer world, now I want to be. Then I thought that, okay, let me try and see if bisexuality works for me. So I thought that, okay, possibly I'm little straight. So I had a girlfriend, not a girlfriend, it's a sex date with a woman. I, um, and of course, it was with consent where she was interested in me. I went to a garden and she moved her hands all over my body. I moved my hands all over her body. And I came home and I just had bath, because I said that I don't relate to it at all, so I did try all this thing because I didn't fit in because there was no community at that time. There was and the community that I saw was so huge that I didn't find a space over there. But were there communities? Yes. Where conversations used to happen? Yes. There were communities that were there, but all of them would have a pseudonym, and all of them. So I remember some names also. Jhansi Nahi Dungi was one. Somebody was called Jhansi Nahi Dungi. Then somebody was called Love Detached. So we had names like that. So weird names in the online world, uh, which
Mostly
are which I
online, right? Mostly online, mostly underground, like you said, right?
uh,
So, but
online in
90s,
the beginning. Yeah,
okay, but you
online in
met
the
each
beginning. The
other.
data. Sorry.
You- But you met each other face to face
Then
later.
then we met. Then Gay Bombay used to have these film festivals. Okay, so where it used to happen at National College, which is a premier college in Bandra in Bombay,
Yeah,
and it used to happen very publicly over there. And this was a time when Section 377 existed. Okay, and there were colleges which were willing to give their space, completely aware of the fact that so I think Bombay had come of age, come out of the closet way before other cities had. Imagine an educational institute hosting, and there were some movies which were like all skin show and everything, but they never interrupted us. And
excellent.
I credit Team Bombay.
I'm from National College. I mean, did my uh, up to 12th standard from National College, but
That's
I
what
was not
made you.
aware of this.
That's
I
what
know
made you. Yeah.
exactly the DNA there. I think it's all these films that we were screening and watching, you know. But I didn't know about these things. And by the way, when I was even in the late 90s, when I was kind of searching for anything to do with lesbians, or when I went to I lived in New Zealand at that time in 2000 onwards, and I remember traveling back to India and looking up sites to see if there was any hangout for women lesbians. There was nothing. I couldn't find anything.
I used to think, I mean, with no offense to lesbians, I never saw lesbians in any of these discussions. There used to be one or two people who were people who were queer and whose sex assigned at birth was not male. Very few people. So I can actually count them on my fingers. I know some. I know Geeta Thadani. I know Geeta Kubana. I know Leslie. So I know so many people. I know these people, but they were. You have only those many people, right? And all these people who came for the festival also, they wouldn't put it up on their Orkut. Orkut was a space at that time, or they wouldn't speak openly about it. So we had a smaller section of even smaller section of people would actually speak about their sexuality. They were there, they were out and about when it came to that festival, when they went for hooking up, but they wouldn't speak about it. So it took some time and efforts from many people. Gay Bombay, Humsafar Trust, a lot of them took a lot of efforts. And then slowly, it is only now that I'm seeing queer women coming out because patriarchy again, so women by themselves are subjugated, and उसमें queer woman कहाँ पे, so
Right.
it acts uh, very differently.
It's been a journey, I think, for all of us, for women in particular. Like I was hesitating to come out. I've just come out because there's so many judgments attached to it. For a woman, I don't doesn't say I would love to know a man's world, because for us as a woman, to me, I'm supposed to procreate. That's my role. I'm supposed to help the man with the legacy and leave the legacy behind. Right? That's my job. And I'm saying no. Actually, if I become a lesbian, the chances of me having having that job diminishes. So that pressure on a woman is quite different to a pressure on a man. The pressure on you is you're the patriarch of the family, right? There's an expectation from a male child. So both are quite difficult. However, I feel that in this world, now this is my observation, I want you to tell me if my observation is right. In this world of patriarchy, in a straight heterosexual heteronormative society, men take the lead. Men are the big bosses, whether we like it or not. They say, I give you permission, right? I find that in the gay world as well. In the LGBT community, I find that even in the LGBT community, the gay men rule. We are still following Harish Iyer's. Why? Do you feel that as well?
I do, I do. There's no denial. There's this group called Gacy Family, okay,
Yeah,
which
I
is a
know.
group run by queer women. So Sakshi, um, and erstwhile Anuja used to, a very close friend of mine. She was also associated with it. So, um, I remember there was this one time when there was a queer party, which was organized by Gacy Family, post Pride party, and what happened was. So they wanted to keep the numbers skewed, so, if every party is inclusive of everybody, okay, not that you should not be inclusive, then what really happens is it ceases to be a safe space. Okay, I know that you would have got like many in your others Facebook folder, you'd have got one or two messages saying, will you get married to me, I'm a gay man, let's get married together. So you become, not everything, everything comes from a point of wanting to sabotage people. Sometimes it comes from that point also, as if lesbians are just available, queer women are just available for men to look heterosexual in the society, because the fact that women have a voice is completely forgotten. They think that all lesbian women would just be waiting to get married. तुम्हें भी pressure है, मुझे भी pressure है, चलो शादी कर लेते हैं. So that's the kind of, yeah, we both are getting pressurized, so let's get married. So that kind of ideology does exist, and patriarchy does exist in the queer world. You see many spaces being ruled by queer men, and that's why I'm not. That's why I think it's important that there are more voices that are heard. So I make it a point wherever, now I could have, one point is for me to say, when Raga calls me for an interview, it's for me to say that I'll not do this interview. Please interview a woman. Okay. But it's important that that perspective comes out also. So I'll rather do the interview, but I'll make my point clear also. And usually, many a times, I'm sorry,
Oh, how sweet.
this is the only heterosexual relationship I have. She's a woman. Yeah. So, yeah. I think, from a it is true. Patriarchy comes in over here also, and while I don't believe in, um, you know in giving up everything, but use your voice to amplify. If you are given a platform, and you are called platform to speak about these things, you know. So one is to completely deny. There are times when journalists would call me for interviews, and I would and friends of mine like Sonal, Gyani, and other people, they know about it. Then many a times I would call up Sonal and tell her that, I'm just writing, and they'll say, "Nee, nee, aap meko," because I was very media friendly, so I used to speak in quotes, so they could pick up that, and that would become the headline the next day. So I was very media friendly, and I knew media people. So they used to call me every now and then. So I can't keep telling them that please don't interview me. What I started doing was because it was also important to get the message out, and I wanted my message in my way to come out also. So there was a selfish intent as well. So what I started doing is, with that I started pushing other messages also. So I knew exactly how to. It's a secret between Sonal and me. There were many messages that Sonal would give. I would just craft it and tell because I know what she was going to say. So I used to write the message. I used to write one message from me for me, one message for Sonal, and one message for another woman, and I used to just craft it and send it. So I think it's important with, especially with your friends, that you do something, that you have this understanding of doing it. And yes, now you could spend the rest rest of the life just what to say, just hating the fact that, oh nay, nay, I'm going to not be there at all. Or you could do something more proactive and more intelligent. So people often think that women are going to come and take away all the spaces of men. No, share your space, share your mic, share your podium. I'm Don't even pass it, share it. Okay, no
Interesting.
one is.
So this is how a secure world should be, right? Because that's how it is. Men and women work together, whatever the sexuality, right? And but what is also interesting is I've been on many platforms in the last 2 years where I have seen whenever there are two men around on a panel, I think to myself, "Ab ho gaya." There's going to be a fight. I want to know why do two gay men fight so much? What happened?
because because we all have different ideologies. Like I am a I'm more than being gay. I call myself a feminist. Okay, so there are perceptions about people. So there was this matrimonial ad about my caste, but there was this huge drama that was created, and rightly so. If you are
Oh,
from a
sorry. Sorry, let's talk about that so that people, the audience, can get context. I know many will know, but our friends who are not in India, outside of India, there was an ad that Harish's mom put in the newspaper, right? A matrimonial ad looking for a partner for you, and a male partner, and it talked about your caste as well, from same
yeah.
caste, correct? Yeah. So
So
that's
it
the
basically
reference Harish
said
is making.
caste no bar, but Iyer preferred. So the story behind that was my grandmother was 84 years old, so she came into the room while me and my mother were crafting the ad, and we were not serious. We didn't know if we were serious about it. And my grandmother asked me, "Kya kar rahe ho? What are you doing?" And my um, mother just said, "Ki we are placing an ad for Harish." So my grandmother was 84 years old at that time. Said, "It doesn't really matter whether you marry a boy or a girl. It just needs to be an Iyer." So we said caste no bar, but Iyer preferred. So there was a bit of a quirk over there. So am I uh, am I allowed that? Possibly jokes. If there are some jokes, it should be. And now I can say that. Now I can verbalize that jokes could be down up, not up down. So I possibly shouldn't have made that. Okay, this is calling for attention. So yeah, so that matrimonial ad came in. So sometimes that the fact that I have spoken, so they want an apology from me. So every time I would give an explanation, the genuinity of the genuineness of the apology is measured by the length of the explanation. And I used to give long explanation, so people thought that I was not genuine. So you have preconceived judgments about it. So I face trouble when I'm with people who on a panel who believe in you know who believe in Dalit rights, because the assumption that they make is that I don't believe in Dalit rights, that I don't believe in these things because of that matrimonial act. If I'm with people who are terribly right wing, okay, they think that I'm too left wing. If I'm with left wing people, they think that I'm a centrist and that doesn't fit in. So that the fact that we gay men fight with each other is a good thing also, because we are not a monolith. We are not the same. We are different people. We come from different ideologies, and we don't think the same way. And we have hell a lot of fights within the LGBT community. We have We have even camps. People speak about the Karan Johar camp. Come to the gay world and you'll know how many camps exist. Okay, so I fit into some places as and when I fit into those places, because I have a voice of my own. So I would say things the way I look at things. I would not say things the way they want me to say things. So if they want me to be gay, they want me to be gay in their idea of gayness, not in way I want to be gay. That is not possible. I will be gay the way my sexuality is something that I fought for. I have won this after a lot. I've struggled for this, so I will not be gay in any other way than what I know I am. And now I'm not just gay; I'm also discovering my gender. I discovered that I feel like a woman sometimes, and and I'm gender fluid, and that I discovered only when, just as you discovered your sexuality later, I discovered my fluidity. Um, just like 2 years, 1.5, 2 years back, and it took me my partner who was gender fluid. At that time, my partner with whom I had a relationship, past tense. I heard the word X. So he basically brought me. Um, he made me realize he was a loving person, and he made me realize the dichotomy that we don't need to exist in the binary. You could be fluid as well. So yeah, so we all learn from everybody, and I've dated some incredible people, so I learned from them as well.
Sure. You know, a lot of people don't understand the difference between sexuality and gender, right? Sex and gender. And I find it very interesting, very educated, very learned people also don't know the difference. So I'm glad that you brought that up and you spoke about it. And you know, we don't have much time because I try to keep it to an hour, but I could just listen to you, I think, forever. We may want to do another session with you because I want to talk to you more about the community per se, Harish, because I think there is so much we don't understand. I don't understand. I feel I've come from the outside world into a world which is quite different. And I get boxed, you know, if I have long hair, then I'm a femme person. If I have short hair, then I'm the man in the house. If I, you know, this constant boxing, binary, non-binary, telling me that no, you're not a lesbian, you're a bisexual woman, telling me how I should identify myself just because I've been married, have children. So all these myths and conceptions and stereotypes, I would love for us to have a conversation about.
I think it's, yeah, we should have this conversation. But one basic rule is that there are assholes in every community. So every community. So I know of lesbians who are assholes. I know gay men who are assholes. I know trans people who are assholes. You know, and opinions are also like assholes. Everyone has one. So yeah.
Well said, Harish. I love what you've said today, and I wish we had more time together. But we will make more time because I think we've just touched the surface with Harish. I want to talk about, like I said, the LGBT community as a whole, but I also want to talk about things like conversion therapy, for instance. And that's a conversation I think you were the best person to be in a discussion with, and we will come back to you on that, and we'll come back to the audience as well. Harish, is there a message you want to give the audience? And I hate asking this because typically when people ask me for a message, I say, Array, 1 hour of messaging I gave you. But I'll still ask you.
See, there's something that we believe, that I believe in. I believe that the onus of inclusion lies on those who are included, not on those who are excluded. So, if we can just have this principle in our lives, and this is something that I'm trying to inculcate at my workplace at Axis Bank, this is something that I'm trying to inculcate in my life, that the onus of inclusion lies on those who are included, not on those who are excluded.
Very good. Well said. We're going to have this as a quote put up for sure. And thank you, Harish, for your time. And
Thank you, Raga.
beautiful. I love how honestly you spoke to us. You really shared things that I had read about, I had heard about. But having this conversation one on one, I wish you were here present here. And I'm going to assume I'm
Yeah, I
present
just want to
here.
physically touch people, Raga.
I know,
It's
me
like,
too. Me too,
oh, I
essay.
just want to
Let's
touch people.
Yeah, me too. And I love you. And thank you for bringing your full self to this show. Yeah. And looking forward to connecting and taking this forward. I have to thank Nicola for her support in the background. नहीं तो खाना नहीं मिलेगा रात को, है ना? I hope,
Thank you, Nikita, and
I
thank you,
hope,
Raga.
thank you. And I hope this helped our audience. Any questions, any feedback you have, any thoughts you have, please write to us at theviewsroom@gmail.com. Thank you for joining in. Please remember to follow me at Totally Out Now and Facebook, Instagram. Harish, what's your social handles?
Iyer Harish on Instagram, Harish Iyer on Facebook, and Harish on LinkedIn. So yeah.
Wonderful. So do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Raga Olga de Silva, for different stories and for much, 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 much more content. Wonderful to have you all with us. Remember, closets are for clothes and not to hide your truth. Signing out at Totally Out Now. You're watching today with Totally Out Now, presented by the Views Room. Thank you, Harish. Thank you, audience.